Seattle Gents, I'm Heather Hodge. I am the co-founder and culinary director at the Pastry Project in Pioneer Square, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make our dark chocolate truffles. Well, this is a really simple and approachable recipe that's going to have a big effect with the person that you're going to be sharing them with. Maybe a little glass of champagne right after dinner along with these truffles, and believe me, they're going to go a long way. There are only 4 ingredients that you need for this recipe: 3.5 ounces of dark chocolate, 1 tablespoon of corn syrup, 2 ounces, fluid ounces or by weight of heavy cream, and then later on, you're gonna need some cocoa powder for dusting. So just 4 ingredients, all things that you can find at your nearest grocery store or drugstore. Let's get started. So we're going to need to chop this chocolate bar super finely. So I just have a cutting board and a sharp chef's knife right here. And I like to start from one corner and just work my way down the bar, creating little shards that kind of break up into these little shattery pieces of chocolate, kind of like little shavings of chocolate. If your chunks are too big, that is going to create a problem in a little bit because we need the chocolate to fully melt once we pour our hot cream and corn syrup over this chopped chocolate. If the chunks are too big, they're just not gonna melt. It just takes a minute or so. And once all of that chocolate is chopped, I'll do just a really quick run through with my knife. And this right here is 70% dark chocolate, so it's super bitter chocolate. You really want to get something between 60 and 70% chocolate for this recipe, just so you have those really bitter, nice tones. They kind of have those fruity, floral tones to them too. Then we're just gonna get all of this chocolate into the bowl. I like to use my chef knife for that. Chocolate melts pretty easily, so because it's fairly fine, if I were to just start using my hands and scooping this into the bowl, it's gonna start melting, and I like to keep my hands clean. Okay, one easy step done. Now we need to prepare our liquid that is going to be heated up and then poured over this chocolate to melt it down into a really silky, smooth ganache. So, super easy for this. Just go ahead and put your corn syrup into a container. It could be just like a 1-cup container like this. Make sure it's microwave proof, or a small bowl, something along those lines. And I'm just gonna pour this cream right over the corn syrup. You can also measure your corn syrup and your heavy cream into the same container. I really just wanted to separate that out for visual purposes so you could see what I was working with. I'm gonna put this cream and corn syrup into the microwave for almost a minute. I'm gonna stand by the microwave. The moment it starts rising up and coming to a boil, cut the microwave off and pull it out. We just pulled our cream and corn syrup out of the microwave, and it's been sitting on the counter for about 1 minute just to cool down slightly. I'm gonna pour it right over this chocolate, the entire amount, and you can see the chocolate immediately starts melting. And then I like to just give my bowl a little jiggle. Just a little jiggle to let the chocolate start settling in and start melting. Now we're gonna wait for another 2 minutes. We don't wanna disturb this too much in this 2 minutes, so no stirring or anything like that. We're just gonna wait and let that chocolate start to melt, and then we're going to mix it all together into a smooth ganache. So I've got my sheet pan or baking pan lined with some plastic wrap, and I am just going to pour this ganache right onto that sheet pan, and then it's just going to get spread out into a fairly thin layer. It's probably about 1/2 inch thick. And now comes the part where you have to be a little bit patient. You're just gonna lightly cover this with plastic wrap, just like this. And you're gonna set this to the side for the next hour. It needs to get firm so that you can make little scoops and roll them into the truffles that will be coated in cocoa powder. So it has been 1 hour and we are gonna get going on rolling these truffles. We have our ganache that's been setting. And you know, if you walk away from this ganache for longer than an hour, that's also totally okay. But at least about an hour just to get it to set slightly. And this is the part where you want to work fairly quickly and efficiently because this is still chocolate and it's going to melt in your hands. So if you have some gloves at home, like these pink ones that I have, then you can use those to just kind of help reduce the chances of your hands really melting down the ganache. If you don't, that's okay. Just work quickly to roll these into a little ball and you'll be just fine. I have a little spoon here and I'm just gonna start cutting off little sections of this ganache, putting that into my hand and just quickly forming it into a little ball. And it's gonna be fairly soft at this point. This ganache will still be fairly soft. So just work nice and quickly. And then once they're coated, they'll have an opportunity to set a little bit more later as well. So I just threw my truffle into this cocoa powder and I'm just gonna give it a nice little dusting. And I kind of like this process because I feel like this is where your truffles turn into, instead of like a perfect round sphere, kind of this pretty little abstract truffle. And I'm just gonna set that onto a plate to serve on. And then we are just gonna keep doing this until all of our truffles are rolled and dusted. If it is a little bit too soft, just let it sit for a little bit longer on the counter and your truffles will be just fine. The cocoa also really helps you be able to handle these as they're quite soft at this stage. So don't make these right before you serve them. Make them a couple of hours ahead of time. Give them a little more time to set once they've been dusted. Give that champagne a little time to chill down. So we have our beautiful finished dark chocolate truffles. This recipe is so easy. I know you can make it for this Valentine's Day. Just a couple of simple ingredients, simple recipe, and it's gonna go a long ways for that special person in your life. If you wanna learn more about the Pastry Project, go to thepastryproject_ on Instagram and follow along.